The night was heavy, and the ruins of the old alien city lay in silence. Broken walls standing like bones of a dead giant. The wind blew through the empty streets, carrying dust and the smell of something rotten. The human, Marcus, walked slowly, his boots pressing against the cracked ground. He was only searching for scrap metal and old tools, something he could trade for food, but then he stopped. His ears caught a sound. It was soft, weak, almost like a whisper carried on the wind. He held his breath and listened. Yes, it was there again, a cry, faint and broken. Marcus raised his small lantern. The dim orange light touched the shadows of a collapsed building. The sound came again, a whisper, one single word, help. He stepped forward, his heart beating harder. He knew these ruins were not safe. People said creatures lived here. People said ghosts of the war still screamed inside the walls. But this was not a ghost, this was real. He moved the stones and broken beams aside, and then he froze, in the corner of the ruins. Lying on the ground was a girl. She was not human, her skin had a pale glow, almost silver under the lantern light. Her hair was tangled and dusty, her thin arms chained to a piece of broken steel. Her eyes opened slowly, bright and alien, yet filled with pain. She whispered again, "Please." Marcus knelt down. His hands shook as he touched the chains. They were tight, cutting into her wrists. Dried blood marked her skin. He looked around. Who had done this? Why was she left here to die? The girl tried to move, but she was too weak. Her breathing was shallow. Marcus knew if he left her here, she would not survive the night. For a moment, fear held him. Saving her could mean danger. Maybe the people who chained her would come back. Maybe they were watching even now, but he could not turn away. He was human, and humans had a strange thing inside them. A voice that said, "Do not let someone die like this." He pulled hard at the chain, but it did not break. He cursed under his breath, took out his old knife, and began cutting at the metal links. Sparks flew, his lantern shook. Every sound echoed in the ruins like thunder. Finally, with one last strike, the chain broke. The girl gasped, her eyes wide as if she could not believe she was free. Marcus lifted her carefully in his arms. She was light, far too light, like a starving child as he carried her out. He felt the ruins grow colder. He turned his head, and in the distance he thought he saw movement. A shadow slipping behind a wall, watching, waiting. His skin crawled, but he kept moving. The night outside was dark, the sky filled with broken clouds and a thin moon. Marcus walked fast, his breath heavy. The girl's head rested against his shoulder, her voice whispering in a language he could not understand, but one word kept returning. "Please, please." He reached the edge of the ruins where his small cart waited. He placed her inside, covering her with an old blanket. Her silver eyes looked up at him, filled with fear and hope at the same time. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're safe now." But inside, Marcus was not sure. He knew nothing about her, not even her name. Yet saving her had already tied their fates together. As he pushed the cart away from the ruins, he felt the night watching him. The ruins whispered behind him, as if warning that this rescue was only the beginning. Far away, hidden in the dark, figures moved silently, eyes glowing faintly. They had seen the human take the girl, and soon they would come for him. Marcus did not know this yet. He only knew one thing, that he had saved her from death. But sometimes saving one life brings many more dangers, and so began the story of a human and an alien girl, in a world broken by war under a sky filled with secrets. The road from the ruins to Marcus's farmhouse was long and broken. The old cart creaked with every turn of the wheel, and the weak lantern light barely pushed back the darkness. Marcus kept glancing behind him, afraid that someone or something was following. The alien girl lay under the blanket, her body trembling with cold. She made no sound now. Only her eyes moved, staring at the sky. Marcus wondered what she was thinking. Did she even understand him? Did she know he was not her enemy? At last the farmhouse appeared in the distance, a lonely shape standing at the edge of the desert. It was not much, just a small wooden house with broken windows, an old barn and a water tank that leaked every night. But to Marcus it was home. He pushed the cart into the barn and closed the doors behind him. Inside, the air smelled of dry hay and dust. He lit a lantern and placed it on the floor. The girl's eyes followed the flame as if she had not seen fire before. Carefully, Marcus helped her sit up. She was still weak, her silver skin covered with dirt and wounds. Her lips were dry and cracked. He quickly brought a jug of water and held it near her mouth. She drank slowly, every drop like life itself. "Better?" Marcus asked, even though he knew she might not understand. She looked at him and gave a small nod. It was the first clear sign that she trusted him. He gave her bread, old and hard, but she ate it with shaking hands, chewing slowly as if her body had forgotten what food was. Marcus watched her silently, questions filling his mind. Who was she? Why was she chained in the ruins? And why did her skin glow faintly in the light? After eating, she leaned against the wall. Her eyes closing, Marcus covered her with another blanket. For a moment, she looked almost peaceful, like a child who had found safety after a storm. But the farmhouse was never truly silent. The desert winds howled outside, and every now and then, a strange sound echoed through the night. A distant cry, sharp and hollow. Marcus froze every time he heard it, and the girl's eyes would open in fear. She knew those sounds. He could see it in her face. At midnight, Marcus sat near the lantern. Unable to sleep, the girl finally spoke. Her voice was soft and broken, but one word came clear: name. He looked at her. Surprised, your name? She nodded weakly, placing a hand on her chest. Lyra, she whispered, her voice almost cracked. But there was pride in it, even in her weakness. Marcus pointed to himself. Marcus. For the first time, the girl smiled. It was small and tired, but it lit her face. She repeated slowly, Marcus. Something stirred inside him. He had saved many broken things from the ruins. Old machines, scrap metal, pieces of history. But this was the first time he had saved a life. The night dragged on, but neither of them truly slept. Marcus kept thinking of the shadow he had seen back in the ruins. Someone had chained her. Someone had left her to die. They would not simply forget her. In the early hours before dawn, Marcus went outside to fetch more water. The desert was cold, his breath turning to mist in the air. He filled the jug and stood still for a moment. His eyes scanned the darkness around the farmhouse. Then he froze. Far beyond the broken fence, he saw a figure standing still as a stone, glowing eyes staring at the farmhouse. For a long moment, the figure did not move, then slowly melted back into the shadows. Marcus gripped the jug tight, his heart racing. They were not alone. Someone was watching. When he returned inside, he did not tell Lyra. She was already awake, her silver eyes wide with fear. Perhaps she had felt it too, perhaps she already knew. The rest of the day was heavy with silence. Marcus worked around the farmhouse, repairing old tools, feeding his animals. But every time he turned his head, he felt the same weight, the feeling of being watched. Lyra stayed in the barn, recovering little by little. Sometimes she would whisper strange words in her language. Sometimes she would hum a tune so sad it made Marcus's chest ache. She was far from safe, far from free that night. As Marcus sat near the fire, he looked at her and spoke quietly. You're safe here, Lyra, he said. I won't let anyone hurt you. She looked at him for a long time, and then whispered one word that made his blood run cold. They? Marcus leaned forward. They? Who? She shook her head, eyes filling with tears. She pointed outside toward the dark desert and whispered again. They come. Marcus felt the wind shake the old house. The silence of the shelter was no longer peace, it was only the calm before the storm. The desert sun rose slowly. Painting the farmhouse in pale light, Marcus had not slept. His mind replayed the image of glowing eyes watching from beyond the fence. He had told himself it was just his fear, but deep down he knew. Lyra was not safe here. Inside the barn, the girl stirred under the blanket. Her breathing was stronger now, her thin body no longer shaking with weakness. Marcus sat near her, sharpening his old knife. His eyes wandered to her arm, still bruised from the chains. That was when he saw it, a faint glow under her skin, like a hidden pattern. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. But as the morning grew brighter, the marks became clearer. Lines of silver light ran along her arm and curved across her shoulder. Almost like ancient writing, Marcus leaned closer. His breath caught in his throat. The marks were not wounds, not tattoos. They were alive, faintly pulsing as if they carried blood and fire at the same time. Lyra opened her eyes and saw him staring quickly. She pulled the blanket tighter around her, fear flashing in her gaze. What is that? Marcus asked softly. His voice was calm, but inside his heart raced. She hesitated, her lips trembling. Finally, she whispered, Mark. Marcus frowned. What kind of Mark? Her eyes dropped and she spoke in broken words. Mark, of tribe, of war. Marcus sat back slowly. He had heard stories, rumors told by travelers, that some alien clans marked their chosen ones with symbols of power. Marks that could lead armies or call storms. But those were only stories, weren't they? He looked at her again, the glowing lines across her skin. They were not stories anymore, they were here, right in front of him. Did they chain you? Because of this? Marcus asked. Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Danger." Mia then pointed at him. "Danger! You!" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had saved her without knowing who she was. Now the weight of his choice pressed heavier on his shoulders. The day passed slowly. Marcus worked on his tools, but his mind stayed restless. He noticed Lyra watching him often, as if she wanted to explain more but lacked the words. Sometimes she touched her glowing mark, covering it quickly when she saw his eyes. By evening, the desert wind picked up, blowing sand against the walls of the farmhouse. The sky turned red as the sun dipped low. Marcus went outside to tie down the water tank. And again he felt it, eyes watching, hidden in the distance. He gripped the rope tighter, scanning the dunes. He could swear he saw shapes moving, low and fast, disappearing as soon as he looked. When he returned inside, Lyra was standing. Her small frame leaned against the wall, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. She raised her hand and pointed at the door. "They come," she whispered. Marcus's throat tightened. "Who are they?" She pressed her hand to her glowing skin. "Hunters," she said. Her voice cracked. "They want Mark. They want me." Marcus swallowed hard. Hunters, slavers, tribes at war, whatever they were close and they were watching. He felt anger rising in his chest. He had no weapons but his knife, no army, no plan, but he had already chosen the moment he broke her chains. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She sat near the fire, her arms wrapped around herself. Marcus sat opposite her, sharpening the knife again. The silence was broken only by the crackle of wood. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "Mark, not only war." Marcus looked at her, waiting. She touched the glowing lines on her arm. "Mark is promise, tribe. Follow, tribe. Protect." Marcus's eyes widened. He understood. Her mark was not just a target, it was a crown. She was someone important, someone destined to lead, but then why was she chained and left to die? Lyra's voice shook. "My tribe. Broken women, scattered hunters. Take all I run, I fall. Chain." Her eyes filled with tears. "You, save me." The firelight danced across her glowing skin. Marcus felt the weight of her words. She was not just a girl. She was the key to something bigger, and saving her had tied him into it. He stood and walked to the door, opening it slightly to look into the night. The desert stretched silent, but he knew they were out there. Watching, waiting for the right time. Behind him, Lyra whispered something that made him stop. "They will come. Many women, tribe." "Find you." Marcus turned. "Your tribe?" She nodded slowly. Soon, a strange mix of fear and hope burned in his chest. He had saved her life, and in return, he had drawn the attention of not only enemies but also an entire tribe of women who believed in the mark on her skin. The night grew darker, the silence heavier. Marcus closed the door and sat back near the fire, his eyes on Lyra's glowing mark. His thoughts heavy, his knife sharp outside. Unseen figures moved closer to the farmhouse, glowing eyes watching through the desert wind. The rescue in the ruins had started everything, but the mark on her skin was the truth that would change it all. The desert night was never quiet. The wind carried whispers across the sand, and the old farmhouse creaked as if it remembered every storm of the past. Marcus sat near the fire, his knife resting on the table, his eyes fixed on the door. Lyra slept lightly in the barn, but her glowing marks pulsed faintly even in her dreams. Marcus could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the shapes moving in the dunes, the glowing eyes that vanished when he looked straight at them. He knew something was coming, but he did not know when. At midnight, the lantern flickered. The shadows in the room seemed longer, darker. Marcus stood and moved to the window. His breath caught beyond the broken fence. Several figures stood in silence. Their outlines were tall and slender, their eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. They did not move, they only watched. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He reached for his knife, though he knew a single blade would not save him if they rushed the farmhouse. He stepped outside slowly, the sand cold under his boots. The wind blew his coat back as he faced them. "What do you want?" He called out. His voice was steady. Though his heart pounded, the figures moved at last. Not toward him, but to the side. Their steps were silent, graceful, Soon they surrounded the fence, half in shadow, half in moonlight. Then one of them stepped forward. A woman, tall and alien, her skin the same faint silver glow as Lyra's, but stronger. Her hair flowed down her shoulders, marked with patterns that shone faintly like stars. She raised her hand not in threat but in greeting. Her voice carried in the wind, soft but firm. Human. Marcus's grip tightened on the knife. Who are you? The woman tilted her head, her glowing eyes calm but sharp. We are her sisters, she said, pointing toward the barn. The girl you hide. Marcus's mind raced. Was this her tribe, or was this another trap? He thought of Lyra's words, the hunters, the mark, the danger. Why should I believe you? Marcus asked. The woman stepped closer and the others followed silently. Their faces were not cruel but not kind either. They looked like warriors, scarred, proud, carrying the weight of survival. You freed her, the leader said. Because of you, she lives, because of you. The hunters now watch this place. She paused, her eyes narrowing. You must come with us. Marcus's jaw tightened. And if I refuse? The air grew heavier. The other women shifted, their glowing eyes fixed on him for a moment. He felt like prey surrounded by wolves. Before he could answer, the barn door creaked. Lyra stepped out, her blanket falling from her shoulders, her glowing marks bright in the dark. The moment the tribe saw her, they dropped to one knee. Their heads bowed low. Marcus stared in shock. The women, strong and fierce, were kneeling like loyal soldiers. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She whispered a word in their tongue. Broken but clear, the tribe answered with one voice, a sound like thunder rolling through the night. Marcus realized then, Lyra was not only important, she was sacred. The leader rose, her eyes locking on Marcus. Do you see now, human? She is ours. She carries the mark, the last of her bloodline. Without her, we are nothing. Lyra shook her head weakly. Stepping closer to Marcus, she clutched his arm and whispered, Not leave. Her voice shook. Safe. With you. Marcus's chest tightened. He looked at the tribe, then at the fragile girl who leaned on him. He had no army, no plan, no place in their ancient wars. Yet she had chosen him over them. The leader's expression hardened. If she stays here, the hunters will come. They will burn this house, kill you, take her. We are her shield. But you are her choice. The silence that followed was heavy. The tribe waited for Marcus to speak. Lyra's trembling hand held onto his sleeve, her eyes begging him to understand. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice low but steady. If you want her safe, then we protect her together. The leader studied him for a long time, then nodded once, though her eyes still carried doubt. Then prepare yourself, human. The hunters will not wait. The night belongs to us, but the dawn will bring war. As the tribe melted back into the shadows, guarding the edges of the farmhouse, Marcus looked at Lyra. Her silver eyes shone with a strange mix of fear and hope. He knew now that his rescue had pulled him into something far larger than he ever imagined. The girl with the glowing marks was not just a lost soul. She was the key to a tribe, a leader of broken warriors, and the target of ruthless hunters. The farmhouse no longer felt like a shelter. It felt like the center of a storm, and Marcus, once just a scavenger of ruins, was now standing at the heart of it. The next morning, the desert sun burned over the farmhouse. The tribe of alien women had camped silently around the broken fences. Their glowing eyes scanned the horizon, their movements sharp, disciplined. It was clear they were warriors. Even if their weapons were simple spears and blades carved from strange crystal, Marcus stepped outside. The dry wind stinging his face, he felt uneasy. His farmhouse had always been a place of quiet survival, but now it was surrounded by strangers. Women who bowed to Lyra but looked at him with suspicion. The leader of the tribe approached him. Her silver hair caught the sunlight. Her glowing marks were stronger than the others. Her gaze was sharp, measuring him with every breath. You have made a choice, she said, her voice calm but heavy. By saving her, you bound yourself to us. Marcus crossed his arms.
I only freed her from chains. The leader shook her head slowly. You do not understand.
Human, she is not just a girl, she is the mark bearer, the one chosen by the bloodline. Our tribe has waited, scattered, and broken, and now we gather because of her. Because of you. Marcus felt the weight of her words. He glanced toward the barn where Lyra sat quietly, her glowing marks hidden under the blanket. Her eyes followed the tribe nervously. She had no strength to stand tall yet, but the women looked at her as if she were already their queen. The leader stepped closer, lowering her voice. The hunters are coming. They will not stop until she is theirs. If you stay here, you will die. If you come with us, there is a chance, Marcus frowned. And what exactly do you want from me? Her expression hardened. We demand you bring her to our valley. Hidden deep in the mountains there, the tribe will protect her there. Her mark will rise and unite us again, she paused, her eyes burning into his. You will come too, she chose you. And we do not ignore such choices. Marcus's stomach tightened. He had lived his life avoiding wars, avoiding tribes, avoiding causes. He was a scavenger, a survivor, not a hero. He looked back at the house, at the tools and memories inside. If he left, he might never see this place again. But then his eyes landed on Lyra. She held the blanket tight, her small frame trembling. She looked at him with fear that was not just for herself, but for him. Marcus sighed. And if I refuse? The leader's silence was heavier than words. The other women around the fence shifted, their glowing eyes turning toward him. It was not a threat spoken aloud, but the meaning was clear. He was not truly free to choose. Finally, the leader spoke. Refuse and she will die. Refuse, and you will watch this place burn. The words hit Marcus like a hammer. He clenched his fists. His farmhouse was nothing compared to a life, he knew it, but it still felt like chains around his heart. He turned back toward the barn. Lyra met his eyes. She shook her head faintly, whispering, safe. Here, but even she did not sound certain. The leader followed his gaze and spoke again. Softer now. She is strong but not yet ready without us. She will not survive the hunters. Do you want her to die in your arms instead of leading her people? Marcus stood silent, the wind blowing dust around his boots. His mind battled between fear and duty, but he remembered the night in the ruins. Her whisper, please. And how fragile her life had been in his arms. He could not let that happen again. All right, he said finally, his voice steady. I'll go. I'll bring her with you. The leader nodded once, relief flashing in her eyes though her face stayed stern. She raised her hand and the women around the fence let out a low hum, a sound like an oath, but before the moment could settle, a sharp cry came from the horizon. The tribe stiffened, their eyes turning east. Marcus followed their gaze. His chest tightened far across the desert. Black shapes moved in the rising sun, riders fast and armed. Their banners carried strange symbols, and even from a distance, Marcus felt the cruelty in them. The leader hissed. Hunters. The women of the tribe gripped their crystal spears, forming a protective circle around the farmhouse. Lyra gasped, her glowing marks flickering like fire under her skin. She clutched Marcus's arm, whispering, They find us. The leader turned to him sharply. There is no time left. Decide now, stay and die, or come with us and fight for her future. Marcus looked at the oncoming riders, their speed growing with every breath. Dust rose behind them like a storm. He tightened his grip on his knife, then looked at Lyra. Her silver eyes were wide, shining with both fear and trust. His voice was low, but it carried across the barn and the warriors. Then we go together. The leader gave a sharp nod, and the tribe moved quickly, preparing to vanish into the desert paths. The hunters were coming, and the demands of the tribe were no longer just words. They were survival. As Marcus lifted Lyra into his arms once more, he realized the truth. He had saved her once in the ruins, but now, if he wanted her to live, he would have to save her again and again, until the storm ended or consumed them all. The desert journey was long and silent. Marcus walked at the side of the alien women, carrying Lyra in his arms when she was too weak to walk. The tribe moved quickly, their silver eyes glowing faintly in the night, guiding them through the dunes like stars. Behind them, the farmhouse was gone, left to the hunters. Smoke began to rise in the far distance as the riders reached the place. Marcus did not look back. He knew his old life was burning. They traveled through hidden paths Marcus never knew existed. Narrow canyons twisted like giant scars in the earth. The tribe moved with confidence, like they had walked these trails all their lives. Marcus stumbled more than once, but he kept going. After hours of walking, the group stopped at a stone wall. At first, Marcus thought it was the end of the path, but then the leader raised her hand and touched a hidden mark on the rock. Slowly, the wall shifted, sliding open to reveal a passage lit with faint blue light. Marcus stared in awe. A door. In the mountain? The leader gave a small nod. Our ancestors built it. Few outside know it still stands. They entered, and the air grew cooler. The passage opened into a valley hidden deep inside the mountains. Marcus's breath caught. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall crystal spires rose from the ground, glowing softly, casting light over waterfalls that poured into clear pools. Strange plants with silver leaves grew thick, their branches humming with energy. The valley was alive, untouched by the desert's ruin. Lyra gasped faintly in his arms, her eyes lit with recognition. She whispered in her own tongue. Words Marcus could not understand, but he felt the meaning. Home. The tribe's camp was built here, houses carved into stone walls, fires burning with blue flame. Dozens of alien women stepped forward as the group entered. They saw Lyra and dropped to their knees, bowing deeply. Their voices rose in a low chant that echoed through the valley. Marcus felt his skin prickle. He had never been part of something so strange, so ancient. The leader guided him to a stone hall, its walls covered in glowing markings similar to those on Lyra's skin. Inside, Marcus laid her gently on a bed of woven silver grass. Her breathing steadied as she touched the ground, like the valley itself was healing her. The leader stood tall, her gaze fixed on Marcus. You see now, human, she is not only a girl you rescued, she is the bearer of the sacred mark. The last of her bloodline. Marcus frowned. Her bloodline? You mean, she's royalty? The leader's lips tightened. More than that, she is chosen. Her ancestors carried the same marks. They led us through wars, through fire, through exile. Without her, we are scattered shadows. With her, we rise again. Marcus's eyes drifted to the glowing lines on Lyra's arms. He remembered the way hunters chased her, the way the tribe bowed to her. Everything was connected. But why was she left chained in the ruins? He asked. If she's so important, why was she dying alone? The leader's eyes darkened. Betrayal. There are those who serve the hunters, traitors who sold her to weaken us. They thought killing her would end our hope forever. They did not expect a human to intervene. Marcus clenched his fists. The memory of finding her chained came back. The fear in her voice, the weakness in her body. Now he knew it was not just cruelty. It was an attempt to erase her bloodline. The leader stepped closer, lowering her voice. You are part of this now. Human blood has touched the bearer. She trusts you. That bond cannot be broken. Marcus shook his head. I'm no leader, I'm no warrior. I'm just a man who couldn't walk away. The leader studied him for a long moment, then said softly, sometimes that is all a leader is. Someone who refuses to walk away. Later that night, Marcus walked through the valley, watching the alien women prepare. Some trained with their crystal blades, others painted glowing symbols on stones. All of them carried the same determination in their eyes. He sat near a pool of water, staring at his reflection. For the first time in years, he did not look like a scavenger. He looked like someone standing on the edge of war. Behind him, Lyra's weak voice called. Marcus, he turned. She was standing now, supported by two younger women, her glowing marks brighter than ever. She walked slowly toward him, her eyes shining with strength he had not seen before. You stay, she said softly, her words broken but clear. You protect with me. Marcus felt a strange pull in his chest. He nodded once. I'll stay, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew staying meant more than just protection. It meant facing the hunters, facing betrayal, and carrying secrets of a tribe that saw him as part of their fate. In the distance, drums echoed through the valley. Low and steady, the tribe prepared for what was coming. And Marcus realized the secrets of the tribe were not just in their valley or their marks. They were in their belief that one girl could unite them, and one human could change their destiny. The hidden valley had not known war for many years, but on that night, every corner of it trembled with preparation. Fires burned blue against the stone walls. Warriors sharpened their crystal blades, and the sound of drums echoed like thunder through the mountains. Marcus stood among them, his human clothes torn and dusty, a borrowed spear in his hands. He had never been trained in their ways. Yet the women treated him as one of their own. They painted glowing lines on his arms, symbols of protection. They called him Chosen Shield, because Lyra had placed her trust in him. At the heart of the valley, Lyra stood taller than before, her glowing marks brighter than ever. The weakness of her body had not fully gone, but there was fire in her eyes. She raised her hands and the tribe fell silent. Tomorrow, she said, her voice weak yet carrying across the valley. We fight. The women bowed their heads. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He remembered the girl he had carried out of the ruins. Fragile and trembling, now she stood as the bearer of hope. That night was long. The valley was restless. Marcus sat near the fire, staring into the flames. He knew dawn would bring blood. His heart was heavy with fear, but when Lyra sat beside him, her small hand resting on his, the fear eased. "You stay," she whispered, her silver eyes locked on his. "We live. Together." He nodded once. He had made his choice. Dawn came with dust and steel. The hunters arrived like a storm, black banners rising above the cliffs. Their mounts screamed as they thundered toward the valley. Armed with cruel chains and jagged blades, their eyes glowed with hunger for power. The tribe stood ready at the gates, their voices rising in a battle cry. The leader raised her crystal blade high, for the mark for the tribe. Marcus gripped his spear, sweat on his palms. His heart pounded as the hunters rushed forward. The first clash shook the valley. Spears cracked, blades clashed, and the screams of war filled the air. Marcus fought clumsily at first, but his strength and stubbornness carried him. He pushed back one hunter, then another. His spear broke, but he grabbed a fallen blade, swinging wildly. The women around him fought like shadows, swift and deadly in the center of it all. Lyra stood on a stone platform, her glowing marks blazing like fire. She raised her arms, and the crystals in the valley answered. Light pulsed from the spires, rippling across the battlefield. The hunters staggered, some falling to their knees. Marcus looked at her in awe. She was more than a girl, more than a survivor. She was the power of her people, but the hunters were many, and they pressed harder. Their leader, a tall brute with scars across his face, broke through the lines. His chain cracked like lightning as he advanced toward Lyra. Marcus's blood turned cold. Without thinking, he rushed forward. His body slammed into the hunter, the chain wrapping around his arm. Pain burned through him, but he did not let go. He wrestled the brute to the ground, their blades clashing inches from his face. "Marcus," Lyra cried. Her marks flared brighter. The crystals around the valley pulsed with her heartbeat. The ground shook as if the valley itself was alive. The tribe's leader shouted, "Protect the bearer!" The women surged forward. Pushing the hunters back with one last cry, Marcus drove the broken blade into the brute's chest. The hunter collapsed, his chain falling limp. Marcus fell too, gasping for breath. His arm burned with cuts, but he was alive. Above him, the sky lit with silver light. Lyra's marks blazed so bright they blinded the enemy. The hunters screamed, stumbling back. Their banners caught fire, their mounts scattered. The tribe pressed forward, and the hunters broke, fleeing into the desert. The valley was silent again. The tribe stood among the fallen, blood on their blades but fire in their eyes. They had survived. Lyra rushed to Marcus, kneeling beside him. Her small hands pressed against his wounds, tears in her eyes. "You live," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You stay, always." Marcus forced a weak smile. "Told you I wouldn't leave." The leader of the tribe stepped forward, bowing her head to Marcus. "You are no longer outsider, human. You are part of us," the women echoed her, their voices rising in one sound that filled the valley. It was not only victory, it was rebirth. Marcus looked at Lyra, her glowing skin, her silver eyes full of strength. He remembered the ruins, the chains, the night he first carried her. He realized the truth. He had not just saved her. She had saved him too. The farmhouse, the ruins. The fear, all of it was gone. What remained was tomorrow. A future where a human and a tribe of alien women stood side by side, ready to face whatever the galaxy sent against them. And so began their new chapter. Not as prey or survivors, but as fighters united by trust, by fire, and by the mark that shone brighter than the desert sun.